Well, good morning. It's the middle of May, and once more we're coming to you from our studios in North Marquette, otherwise known as my home. We have a great guest today and an interesting conversation. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Steve Mariucci grew up and developed his interest in sports in Iron Mountain before he went to Northern Michigan University and led the Wildcats as quarterback to a 1975 national championship. Mariucci went on to a great career in coaching, including head coach of the San Francisco 49ers and Detroit Lions. He's currently a veteran analyst with the NFL Network. Steve has always remembered his roots in Upper Michigan and has worked to support a number of major projects, including building a new facility for the Steve Mariucci Family Beacon House in Marquette. I talked with him from his home in California, where he said he and his wife have spent 57 days sheltered in place, but he's doing well.
It's it's difficult, but we're lucky. I'm still able to work. I have a giant camera right here for the NFL Network. I've been doing shows remotely. We did the draft remotely, as you saw,
Right.
and so I'm not complaining because other people are out of work and not able to go to their jobs and that sort of thing. So I've got no complaints other than we just keep our fingers crossed like everybody else that we kind of pull out of this thing gradually. I think some states are making some good progress and every state's a little bit different too, But my wife and I are getting a lot of things done around the house, just like I'm sure everybody else is. A little spring cleaning came early,
Right.
I guess.
Listen, we want to talk about football a little bit, but the number one item we have to talk about or want to talk about is Beacon House, because I know you've just been such a strong supporter, and your support goes back almost to the beginning, and
Mhm.
there was some major fundraising you've been part of, but you decided to take it to a new level a few years ago. Tell us, for those who aren't familiar, what's happening.
Well, there was a couple of turning points. I think, gosh, I probably was involved in 2003 when the old Beacon House over there by the university existed, and for many years it supported so many families that needed medical attention at Marquette General. And how about this, Don? That facility provided about $64 million worth of lodging to the patients and caregivers for those getting treatment over there at the hospital. And so I was on board really early, thought it was terrific. And then actually my mom was battling cancer and needing treatment at Marquette General, and some of my family that came in from out of town. I have sisters that still live in Marquette, but some of us actually stayed at the Beacon House, and because it was close, and then we could all stay together, and all of those things, and that was the other moment that I said, geez, I'm going to really jump in with both feet in supporting this because I used it and with my family. And then the other thing is, once the hospital was built on the other side of town, the new hospital, which is terrific, we needed to move. We needed to be right next door. So now we're going in with both feet and everything else and trying to get a new Beacon House built. And it's been a lot of work. It's been exciting. It's very much needed, as you know. And
Right.
we're really I'm committed to see this thing built because it's a passion for us.
You made an estimate, not you, but the group made an estimate several years ago that it would cost $6 million to build the facility you were looking for. And I think you decided that you would maybe take it in phases. So where do we stand at this point?
Well, yeah, we're going to build phase one. That 6 million was just a rough estimate, quick estimate on phase one and phase two, which included more rooms. We are going. The drawings are being done as we speak, and they will go out to bid very, very soon. I think the process has already started, or at least soon. Phase one will have all of the offices and 20 guest rooms and kids rooms and cancer lounge and chapel and wig salon and you name it. It's going to be terrific. So we're going to do that first. And so we still have a ways to go, Don, with our fundraising. We're optimistic that we'll find a way to get it. We're never going to stop fundraising. I mean, there are operational expenses continuously throughout the life of this building, right?
Right.
And so, but we have to get the building built, and it'll be somewhere $3.5 million or more. We'll see, and then depending on how close we are to that number, we'll decide to put a shovel in the ground. And so, as we come out of this, and we are gradually, the fundraising efforts will pick up again. Mary Tavernini Dowling has been terrific, continuously raising funds and knocking on doors. And so we're taking a little bit of a pause here with our monies raised, but man, we're working at it like crazy.
And I understand you've not just been involved in fundraising, you've actually got your finger in the design a little bit. You kind of care about what it's going to be and how it's going to look and what it's going to be all about. Is that right?
I get fascinated with the drawings. I'm looking at these plans and I'm going, oh my God, look at this right here. And maybe that could be bigger. Maybe that could be, I should have been an architect, And so, no, not really. We have some really good people involved. And I think creating something that's exciting for everybody to use for a long, long time is going to be it's so beneficial. It'll be so worthwhile when this thing is up and running. So needed. And so, we're just, I'm glad somebody listens if I have an opinion. That's all.
Well, and we have a lot of people watching this morning, and certainly fundraising is open anytime, and I'm sure you're welcome any support you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody's interested in helping us out, and much needed help, go to upbeaconhouse.org and see how you can do that. And we have the 906 campaign, and we're putting naming rights on rooms and you name it, with guest rooms and family suites and kitchens and lounges and boardrooms and wig salons, and like I said earlier, cancer lounge. Some of it has been already sold. Some of it is still available to put your name on those rooms as a gift from your family. And so that is all certainly welcome, and hopefully you'll consider it. Go to upbeaconhouse.org and see how you can maybe give us a call or go online. Thank you. Yeah.
And I know thanks to your efforts, people like Tom Izzo and Eddie DiBartolo and others have
been so generous. Yeah, Izzo's got a room named after him. He probably wants us to put some pictures of his national championship team up there too. I don't know. I'm sure we will, right? And his family and his kids and all of that sort of thing. And those are some of the fun things that we'll do with the naming rights.
We'll be back to talk about sports after we take this 2-minute break. Well, Steve Mariucci has been lifelong friends with Michigan State basketball coach Tom Izzo, also an Iron Mountain native. In fact, he planned to be there to watch his friend's team in action in this year's Big Ten tournament.
I actually had flights to go to the Big Ten tournament. I was going to fly the next day. I called him. I was just reminding him, hey, I'll be in at 7:00 and I'm coming to your meeting. And he goes, well, hold on, because we just got a call from the Big Ten office that the Big Ten tournament is canceled. And whoa, and that's when it really hit me about the severity of this, that we're starting to cancel March Madness and Big Ten tournaments and NBA and all of the things that we kind of took for granted. And so he was disappointed, of course. Seniors around the country that didn't get a chance to play in the tournament certainly are disappointed. But it had to be that way. Iz had another Big Ten championship, 3 in a row, Don. 3 in a row. And so he had a nice team that, we kind of thought would do very, very well in the NCAA tournament. He and I made a deal when we were both coaching, and I said, well, listen, you take me to Final Fours and I'll take you to Super Bowls, okay? Well, he's taken me to 8 Final Fours and I still owe him. Yeah. So, it was disappointing for everybody, and we're just going to try to find our way back. NASCAR is going to try to get going this month and race in front of no fans. I mean, I think that's the first kind of experiment that we're going to do with sports. I mean, the first one was the NFL draft. You saw the draft. We did it virtually. Everybody, including the commissioner, was at his home. And everybody was in their homes, the players, the coaches, the scouts, the analysts. And you know what? It had the highest ratings ever by far, because people are starving for sports, obviously. Right. We miss sports. That's kind of our culture, right? And right now, there hasn't been anything. So the draft was viewed by 55 million people on different platforms with NFL Network and ABC and ESPN and digital platforms. But it was, I think it was welcome relief for us getting back to some of the things that we love.
Yeah, I really miss, we would be in the NBA playoffs now. We'd be in the NHL playoffs. And I really miss Tiger baseball. Yeah. Even though they haven't done well lately, a losing game is better than no game at all.
Yeah, you go back to all those Al Kaline days, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And before. Let's talk about that draft a little bit. We can't cover the whole thing, but I know, you were a quarterback coach as part of your career. You spent a lot of time with quarterbacks. Brett Favre, I believe, is one of them. In that top 10, we have 3 quarterbacks were selected. First of all, Joe Burrow's at number 1 by the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he going to be able to step in and start playing football next year?
Yes, he's going to have to. They got rid of Andy Dalton. Andy's now with the Dallas Cowboys. So they're clearing the deck now for Joe Burrow, and he's really a good kid, and he's a good player. He had the best season ever in the history of college football with 60 touchdown throws, undefeated, national champs, Heisman, all of it. Heisman Trophy. I mean, what else can you win? He wanted everything. Now, it won't be easy. I mean, guys like Troy Aikman was 0-11 his rookie year. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. Peyton Manning was the number 1 pick in the draft. He went 3-13 with the Colts. It's usually that team that's picking first is a bad team, right?
I'll probably stumble over his name, but at number 5 was Tua Tagovailoa. And he was drafted.
I don't know what you do, but when I get names like that I just can't pronounce, I just give it a short one like Tua, or just call him Tua, And so he's really a good kid. He played at Alabama and played very well, and then hurt his hip. The issue with Tua Tagovailoa is his medical grade. Don, you get an athletic grade, a football grade, you get a character grade, you get a Wonderlic score for mental acuity, you get all kinds of grades, right? Well, medical grade is one of the grades. And he had 2 high ankle sprains, a knee, a quad, a broken hip disc, a finger broken. So is that a concern? Well, if he gets hurt in the first month of the season, they're going to go, well, you knew he was going to get hurt. He had all this injury history. But the doctors cleared him, and he's a great kid, hard worker, and all of that. You root for him. So he's taken 5th by the Miami Dolphins overall.
When we come back, more about the NFL draft closer to home. Returning to our visit with Steve Mariucci, our conversation about the recent NFL draft and quarterbacks brought us to the Green Bay Packers.
These quarterbacks are typically with teams that need a lot of work, and they need to grow up together. The ones that come later are the ones that go to the good teams, like Jordan Love. Like, you're probably going to ask me about Jordan Love.
I am, yes. That's probably the most surprising pick in the draft from what you hear, that the Packers would take their number 1 choice and pick a quarterback. What do you think?
He's a good player. There's no doubt. He's a good player. He's an exciting player. He's got a lot to learn. They can clean up some things. He's the luckiest guy in the world. He probably goes on his knees every night and thanks the Lord and his lucky stars that I got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Are you kidding me? And I can learn from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what else would you want? It's a good team. They were 13-3 last year, and I don't even have to play. I can watch and learn. And so that's what the surprise was. It's not a surprise to me that somebody drafted him in the first round. He's a good talent, and he's going to be a good player in this league. What surprised me is the Packers are close. They're close. They're 13-3. There's a couple teams that are better than they are, like the 49ers out here. The San Francisco 49ers beat them up pretty bad twice last year, okay? And so you got to get over that hump. You got to find a way to get past the Niners and a couple other teams. And by drafting your first rounder, and he's going to sit and wait, all right? And then they even moved up. They gave up a 4th round pick to move up and get him. So that's another drafted. I don't want to say it's wasted because they felt they needed to use it. So, you know, their draft is you know, A.J. Dillon, the running back from Boston College. I like the kid. My daughter went to school at Boston College. I love the school. He's a big back. He's a big pounder. How much is he going to play? I don't know. Aaron Jones is still there, and he's going to be a complimentary piece. So the Packer draft is the jury is still out. We'll have to wait and see if any of these kids contribute much next year.
I guess you never know for some time until you see what happens. But
yeah,
the people like you, and I'm not sure what you did, but the people like you kind of gave the Packers pretty low grades for their overall draft.
I think because many people, including myself, felt that, you know, in the first round they were 31, and then they moved up to 26. They could have taken a terrific receiver there, a guy that could start across from Devontae Adams, all right? Whether it's T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk, who the 49ers got, or any of the – it was a great class for wide receivers. I mean, there were a dozen of them that are going to just start next year. And they didn't take any receiver. I think that's why people were a little bit surprised. Hey, help Aaron Rodgers out. Give him one more weapon. And see how far he can take this team. But that didn't happen. In fact, in the entire draft, they didn't take a receiver. So they must like their receiving core a little bit better than we do.
There are a couple of analysts who have said that maybe there's something going on between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers coach.
Well, we heard that with Mike McCarthy. You know, there's something going on with the play calling and Mike McCarthy. And, you know, and so Matt LaFleur, coached at Northern Michigan.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
He played quarterback for Saginaw Valley under Randy Orry, who was my teammate at Iron Mountain in Northern Michigan. Randy was the head coach over there. Anyway, Matt's a friend of mine and good young coach. But you got to anticipate a little bit of that because here comes a new coach with a new system. And, I don't want to say Aaron Rodgers is an old dog, but you teach an old dog new tricks. He had to learn a new system. And he's only 36 years old. By today's day, ages in the National Football League, 36 is a spring chicken for quarterbacks.
Detroit Lions did not draft a quarterback. Is that maybe positive reinforcement for Matthew Stafford?
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be happy about that, right? He doesn't have to look over his shoulder and worry about, is this the heir apparent that's, breathing down my neck? They drafted a corner, Jeff Okudah, in their first pick at number 3 overall, really good corner from Ohio State. He only started 1 year. Can you imagine that? These guys from Ohio State, man, they just keep rolling them out, especially defensive backs. And then they took a running back, DeAndre Swift, who's a good back from Georgia, and they'll make real good use out of him. So, I thought the Detroit Lions had a pretty decent draft, and they got their team better. The kids that they drafted, many of them are going to start, and some are going to be in the depth. And so that's the difference between the Packers draft and the Lions draft. I think you got some more guys that are going to contribute early on the Lions draft.
You think Matt Patricia may put it together this year?
Well, I don't know what you mean by put it together. I think he's a heck of a coach, Don. Okay. He's a heck of a coach. And I know there's rumblings about, is this his last year? Come on. I mean, you're in a division with an Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and it's been Favre before that. You've had those good teams with the Bears, with all those great defenses. You got the Vikings, who are pretty darn good, pretty salty right now. So that's a hard division to win for the Lions. I think their hope is to get into the playoffs. They've been into the playoffs. I think if they have a problem, it's the division is tough. Every year it's tough, and they got to get rid of that revolving door, that revolving coaches door that's in front of their facility. Because every time you change coaches, you change systems on both sides of the ball. To take one step forward, you take a couple steps back. And so Matt Patricia needs to be there. I thought Jim Schwartz did a heck of a job. I thought Jim Caldwell did a heck of a job. Their tenures were just too short, to get that continuity that they needed. So they got to keep Matt Patricia around. He got the pencil in the ear and, the whole thing. Matt's a good guy. He's like a genius. He wears that hat backwards. He's got the pencil over there. And so I hope they give him time to do his thing because he's a very smart coach, and I think he's going to get it done.
A great guy, a great conversation. Steve Mariucci, back in 2 minutes. The only Upper Peninsula native to become a head coach in the NFL is Iron Mountain Steve Mariucci. But there have been at least a couple of others who stopped here on their way up the coaching ladder. Longtime avid football followers will recognize the name Chuck Fairbanks as a successful college coach at Oklahoma and in the NFL with the New England Patriots. Many will not know, however, that his coaching career started in 1955 at Ishpeming High School, which meant he did have an impact on my life. No, I didn't play for him, but I did have him for a teacher, and I broke my ankle in his gym class. I'll spare you the gory details, but it involved a bad landing on a springboard and buck, and I walked around on a cast for 6 weeks. I've always considered it a badge of honor to be able to say I broke my ankle in a class taught by a man who would become a head coach in the NFL. Back in a minute. Well, that's our show for this week. Remember, it will also be available at uppermichigansource.com starting tomorrow. Well, it was great that Steve Mariucci took the time to visit with us from his home in California. He's fun to talk with. And I'm so glad you could join us as well. Let's get together again next Sunday morning.